Yo, it's Arcade Future, and today we're going to be talking about the classes in Roboquest. Which one's the best? Which one's the weakest? I've beaten the game on S rank, Guardian 4. I've beaten the game with all the bots, and I think I have a pretty good idea on who's the strongest. Um, I want to kind of talk about this game from the perspective of if you've kind of unlocked everything, like you've unlocked your grapple hook, you have the jetpack. This is not a definitive tier list. This is not like the end all be all. I'm not saying that one character can't be viable. I actually think all these mechs are viable and they can all be utilized to get some really good wins. But I do think that there are some, just from my playstyle and my perspective and my experience beating the game on S rank, Guardian 4, that I think are stronger than others and make the job easier than others. I think there are some that are pretty good but take a lot of work to make possible. So I'm gonna kind of talk about that here. Let's go ahead and get into it. So the first one up is the Commando, and I think that if I were to look at the Commando, I would say like he's probably solid. We'll see as we get more into this, but what I like about the Commando is that he's got a long range projectile with his his rocket launcher. He's got his shoddy, which is like his close range move instead of a melee. It's really good. I think that if you can get some like perks with it, you can make the cooldowns on both of those short range and long range weapons pretty good. He doesn't really have any mobility options. He doesn't really have any defensive options that I can really remember. So I'd say he's just solid. He's a solid character for getting through the game if you have good fundamentals. You know how to put up good damage. You know how to space your character. You can get certain elemental perks for certain guns and things like that. So I think he's just good all around. He's got high damage output because of his short range and long range options for the shoddy and rocket launcher. So like, I think he's just solid right now. I might put him in like, yeah, I think he's just solid. He's just a good character. He works well. He's pretty easy to understand. I think probably his shoddy is probably better than the Guardian's melee overall, because you can upgrade the shoddy and it can even become long range, which is great for defeating bosses and also great for keeping your distance. It's not always ideal to like rush in on characters and try to get close range damage because generally, of course, if you're further away, it makes it easier for you to stay alive, especially when you get into harder difficulties. So I think I would put Guardian right behind Commando, because though Guardian is solid though, like don't get me wrong, like he's got a good shield and the shield is like reliable. So it's just like if you just want to play the game slow and simple, you're not really trying to do a speed run. You're not trying to be like super insane. You're just trying to get out of those tight, sticky situations. You're just kind of casually playing. I think Guardian is really strong and really reliable. I would guess that I probably would have the easiest time completing the game with Guardian, but I would not be able to complete it in the fastest time. So I think he's just a reliable character that's able to really defend himself against a lot of incoming damage with his shield. I think his melee it's okay. His I guess they call it bonk or whatever. It's good, but it's not amazing, right? And I don't really use the hammer upgrade that he can get to kind of do the close range damage. I'm just not a big fan of it. I think it's a bit slow. It's not that interesting. Maybe there's someone who's figured out how to make it better, but I think Commando is just really vanilla. A very good base character to start off the game with, and a very good character that it was very strategic and like a good idea for them to start this game with this character. Next is the engineer. I would say like engineer is probably either solid or can make viable. I would say like in easier difficulties, he's probably very strong, right? But once you start getting into the harder difficulties where the enemies do more damage and have more health, I would say that he's not as good because the little drones that you could deploy, they lose health really fast. And it takes a lot to upgrade them to actually make them more viable. And even then, I still don't think that they make that much of a difference in how much damage output you can put in the game, right? So, for example, if you get your engineers to your drones to deploy fire, it's really good. But sometimes like the rate of fire is slow until you upgrade it, and then on top of that, they could be losing health which, you know, could just, you have to wait for your cooldown on your engineer. So I just think that you have to do too much to keep the drones up in the harder difficulties, but or the, you know, you don't have many mobility options either. So you don't have any defensive options. Your offensive output with the drones is kind of slow, and you have to constantly wait for the cooldown to keep these deployed and keep them up. And once they're gone, they're gone. You're just waiting for the cooldown so you can deploy them again, and then they kind of slowly get back to what they're supposed to be doing. And it's hard to even tell how much they're actually doing in the game, like, you know, how much they're actually, you know, making a difference. So I would say in lower difficulties, like hard and below, it's probably very strong because you can, you know, kind of get some really good guns and kind of get steady damage. But even maybe it's solid, but I would probably say like you can make it viable. I don't know. I would say in harder difficulties it's not great. I would put the engineer not great in harder difficulties. Now it's fun, like I said, in the lower difficulties, it's solid to very strong, I'd say. Right? But I'm thinking if you really want to crack the game and you really want to go crazy on this game, I would say it's not great. But like when you're playing, like say Haven City, and you know, you are trying to make sure that all your bases are covered, and you're playing it on, you know, hard, it's really good actually, because you're not really taking damage from places you don't know. It's kind of covering your tracks. Like, it's good, and you can get the freeze element for this, so it allows the enemies to slow down a bit. So I would say like I'm gonna put it here. The can make it viable because, like I said, in harder difficulties, the engineer is not good, but in the lower difficulties, he's fun and really awesome. The next is Recon. This is one of my favorites. This is one of my favorite characters, and I would say like probably very strong, right? And the reason why I say that is because his melee attack, the dagger, is really, I think it's pretty fast. You can get the overslash for the extra damage. You have mobility options. You can even make your decoy or your, you know, your clone or whatever you want to call it. You can let it shoot back, and you can, I'm pretty sure you can have an element chosen to shoot back at the characters as well. So I do really like Recon, and also the purple was awesome too. Recon's probably my favorite character, or one of my favorites, and I just think he's very strong. I think he's good to move around. I do think it's hard to really be successful on Guardian 4 if you're trying to get all S ranks. Now, if you're not trying to get all S rank and you're just trying to beat the game on Guardian 4, I think he's great, because you're always able to move away from damage and from incoming fire. And if your clone is shooting back, you're able to get consistent damage and distract bosses. And you're able to really move around, especially on boss fights where you need like a lot of mobility. And it's an advantage to be able to like use your grapple hook to get to one direction and then use the dash to get to another direction. Like, the mobility options with Recon are very, very strong, but it is difficult to, I think, to get all S's with this character. And that's because it takes a minute for this character to really, really, like, at least to the third level. That's where the character really starts to get really, really strong, I think. I think it struggles to beat it on time on the second level because you don't really want to get close to use your overslash and dagger when you're trying to fight bosses and clear the time. Especially on Guardian 4, your health is going to be, you're going to take more damage. So like using melee and getting close is not that viable. What Recon really shines in, he shines in being able to move around the map, move around the world. And when you are trying to do things on high time after the second level, you're able to get through like Haven City really fast because you can just move up, you can move down, you can move any direction you want to move in. So I would put him in very strong. Now, Elementalist, for now I'm gonna put him in very strong. This is one of my favorites. I might put Elementalist behind Recon on Guardian 4 difficulty, but I do like Elementalist a lot. Like, this is probably my favorite character. Elementalist is so cool because, one, the animations for all of his elements and all his abilities are just really, really creative. So shout out to the dev team for cooking with this character. Um, his melee, which I think is I think it's called Comet, is just cool. It's different elements. He cycles different elements. You can reduce the time of the cycles. I think the other one's called Trinity, which is another move that also cycles. And you just get a lot of perks with this character. Uh, you get a lot of perks with this character because you can really utilize a lot more of the elemental weapons and pickups and gadgets and stuff that you cannot really make useful with some of the other characters. So I think Elementalist is good for utilizing the full suite of options that the character has. So this character is really good. Now, for Guardian 4 difficulty, I think the character is kind of weak. So I would say in Guardian 4 difficulty, I would put this character in solid. So what I'll do is first, I'll do Guardian 4 difficulty with the attempt for like best time, and then I'll put like generally speaking and in like any other difficulty that's like Guardian 1 and below. So first we're doing like Guardian 4 difficulty. I would say this character is solid. I'll put him in very strong. I'll say that Recon's better for time, but Elementalist is better for damage and for overall output. You just have to work really hard to make the damage work. You're constantly pressing buttons. You're constantly looking and thinking about what element you're on. You're constantly thinking about what elements your guns are doing. And so I think you have to think a lot more and you have to be active a lot more, which is a cool way to add some sort of fun to the game. Because you just have to be juggling a lot more with the elements, and it's an incredibly designed character. I love Elemental, so it's probably my favorite. But for time, I would not recommend it. For Guardian 4, just to kind of dominate, yes, it is very, very powerful. Like once you get to the other levels and you're not playing for time, uh, Elementalist can melt. He can melt so many of the enemies. So I think this character is super, super strong. Um, for Recon, I would say this is a tricky character. So let's put Engineer not great because we're talking about Guardian 4 now, and let's make this character can be S tier. Okay, and that's because like we have proof, right? We have the other creator who beat this with this game in 11 minutes, and we always see like how the Recon can like fill in where other characters struggle, and that's because the critical damage is so high with this character, and the javelins and the mobility options and the ability to kind of use stealth and get around some of the enemies and completely distract bosses is very, very strong. But you have to have really good aim and you have to have really good fundamentals in mobility. But if your aim is cracked and you really know how to focus in, this can definitely be S tier. I would just say that, in my opinion, I think you just have to work too hard for this character to be S tier. You have to just be laser focused, and I don't think the character is that fun, in my opinion. Like, I think trying to aim and throw the critical javelins isn't that fun, and also like when you don't have them, you have to go get them in most cases, which is I just think another thing to think about, and I just don't enjoy this character as much. But the character is very, very strong because of the critical damage, and I know a lot of people like them because stealth and you can just kind of get around. So I think this can be S tier. So we probably would put see if we can probably put this. Okay, so I'll probably put Recon, that this one can be truly S tier, right? I think this is the character that can truly be S tier if you really have the skill. If you truly are that skillful, this character is maybe the best of the game, but takes the most work. Um, Recon is great, but very, very hard to beat it on time on Guardian 4, I think, and so is Elementalist. Um, I think perhaps the best character, pound for pound, is Superbot. I beat this game on all S Guardian 4 with Superbot, and I think the reason why is because you are able to progress in this game and make your character stronger with just the core fundamentals. Shoot, dash to roll out of the way, and you get and you can unlock like some summons for this character as well. And your melee is fast. And you can increase the the fire rate and weapon damage and things like that, and it's just pure straight damage output. You don't have to have incredible aim with the javelin to have incredible damage output with this character. So I would put I will put, let's just make this S tier, and let's make Recon second because he takes more work, and I will put Superbot as number one. The Superbot struggles in other areas, but like I said, if you cannot get hit and you can make your character a tank early on by prioritizing high increased fire rate, higher damage, getting your summons right, things like that, getting double summons, this character's strong, and you can always eat the weapons in the map to kind of keep your health up. So I do like this character a lot. I think it's really good. I think Elementalist is the most fun. But I think Superbot is the most reliable for putting out high damage and a fast rate to beat this game on Guardian 4. So that is my tier list for Guardian 4 S tier rank sort of objectives, right? Let's look at if we were playing it on Guardian 1 or lower. Who do I think is the strongest then? I would probably put Elementalist at S tier if we're playing it on a lower difficulty and we're not caring so much about time. I would probably put well, let's just go through each one, right? So Elementalist, I think, is one of the best for sure if you're playing it on lower difficulties. I would say Engineer is also one of the best on lower difficulties. And then I would say that maybe Recon is probably one of the best on lower difficulties. I would say this one gets the lowest bang for buck on lower difficulties because, you really only can really defend yourself and it's not as necessary on the higher difficulties. We'll probably put, on lower difficulties, we'll probably put Recon here. And this one I would say is probably pretty good here. We can put Superbot, maybe here. I don't know how Superbot would fare in the lower difficulties as much. I mean, of course, if the character can do really well in high difficulties, they can do really well in lower difficulties. So let's just put this one here. Let's put him here. Let's put this here. Let's put... Yeah, this is probably let's put him up a bit higher actually. Let's put him a bit. Yeah, I think this is more ideal. Okay, so on lower difficulties, let's put this here. Yeah, so this is kind of, I don't know where this ranks in comparison to my original list, but I'd say all of them are really strong, right? On lower difficulties. This is kind of my order and how I would rank them from best to not as best. And that's my list, right? Elementalist, I would put them there because the damage output is crazy. The use of all the elements is crazy. Superbot, high damage, easy to use, pretty simple. Constantly keep your health up with eating the weapons. Commando, high damage output, easy to use. Ranger, high damage output, a good mobility, not as easy to use. Recon, great mobility, but the melee isn't as practical as it should be, but still really strong. Engineer, I put Engineer actually a bit higher. I'll put him above Recon. And this makes it seem like I don't like Recon, but actually Recon's, like I said, one of my favorites because of the mobility options. But I'm just saying on lower difficulties when you're trying to clear room, I would probably put Engineer up there as well because, like I said, the drones can stay alive a little bit longer. And then I would put Commando maybe at the lowest, right? But Commando, once again, still really, really strong. So that's my tier list for the classes in Roboquest. Like I said, I've enjoyed playing this game. I wasn't going to make this list until I beat the game on all S rank and got the achievement. And once I did, I was like, okay, time to make the video and put my opinion out there. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you want to see more tier lists, you want to see more of my opinions on Roboquest or other games with I can put tier list of different weapons, different characters, different classes, let me know. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching.